Hello, 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 hello. There we are. Oh, welcome. Just going on in Instagram and oh, that's weird. Let's just go there. So let's take a look at what's going on today. Welcome. Just letting people know I am on YouTube live. Come and join me. There we go. What a morning. The energies are really they're very interesting. I think they can really um, make people like turn, if that makes any sense. Um, with this energy, there's so much fire now in the air. It's crazy, and it's the type of energy. And for a person who is a Scorpio Cancer, It's it is I find it's a lot. I don't know about anybody else or if any, especially, with other signs, but this is where people can get you really have to be grounded with this energy. This energy is bringing in a lot of transformation and changes, and it's coming in rapidly. And this is where trusting your intuition, trusting your instincts is gonna be very important, and especially as we're coming up into I mean, the moon is at 0 degrees Aries right now, into the dark phases of the moon. And as we are entering into these dark phases of the moon, this is where things are going to get really crazy. Now, Mercury is at 0 degrees Aries as well. So we have one, two, three, four, five, six, seven aspects. Eight, Aries is eight. Aries. Um, in Aries, that's one fucking stellium. And a stellium is when you have 3 or more planets in a sign. And this is heavy duty. I mean, if any children are born under this moon, man, their parents are they're going to be I'm going to say crack-a-lackin'. This is not going to be an easy child to deal with. This is going to be a very fiery type of energy. And I mean, I like fire energy, but when there's a lot of fire energy in a sign, it can be very detrimental. It can be very where they can burn things out very easily and burn other people, not physically, but in a metaphysical way, in an energetic way. So having this much energy, things are starting to combust. Things are starting to really escalate and get there. And I can feel it. It just takes something very normal or something that can throw you off or make you feel aggravated. And then you have to, well, why am I feeling aggravated? Well, maybe it's because they didn't agree with me or they cut me off or I didn't have the right card. They didn't label me properly. God forbid. And this is, I was listening to Neil McCoy this morning. Love the man. Neil. And also who is it? Neil McCoy. But hold on, go to my YouTube. My YouTube. I know I'm on here. Where bum, bum, bum. I was listening to some Neil, but it's also Neil Oliver. Neil Oliver is a Scotsman. And okay, yeah, I have a thing for European men, Englishmen or Irishmen. Um, But this is where I feel like, because Neil Oliver, he's also a historian, he's, an archaeologist, and, understanding history, understanding how, when you're looking at things happening in the world and you know the history, you understand the history of what has come before you. Same with, uh, Neil McCoy, he studies a lot to do with history too. And I find in understanding that and knowing that it's important because right now we are seeing the shifts and changes that are happening. And I know a lot of people are very overwhelmed with this energy. And I find it frustrating. Like I do have my container course that is, with March, April, May. And I'm going to be doing my fire and dragon, my diamond and dragon workshop. That's a 6-week course. Now, that download came through actually a dream that I had. I've been keeping track of my dreams and it just morphed from there. And it was like, no, you got to do this now and connect it with the new moon. And in connecting it with the new moon is getting people to understand that this is not a typical new moon. Like, this is not a typical where let's go out, let's begin, let's start. This is uh, a very fiery, very activating moon. And this moon is one that is really a kickstart, a one that you're gonna find that, whew, shit's about to hit the fan. Now, all of this energy, because I only have one aspect in my whole sign, and that's Jupiter in Aries. My Jupiter in Aries right now is getting kicked around. I mean, the Sun, Chiron, Mars, all these guys are coming up onto my Jupiter. And Jupiter in Aries is a very active, very one to get things going. It is a very entrepreneurial one to have, that you want to do things and you want to activate things. The thing is that it can be a short fuse, meaning Aries is a spark and it needs something to carry it on. Once the spark is started, if you do a spark and there's nothing there for that spark to hang on to, the spark will fizzle and die. And that's why, even for me, it's like if there's not something that catches or people catch on to it, then it fizzles and dies. I don't carry on with it because I don't have that motivation to do it. It's gone. Um, I'm also where it's like it's in doing what I do, it's like and especially if I'm in a flow and things are coming in and things that I'm doing, it's where my family has learned to sort of just let me go, let me do what I'm doing, because interruptions can cause, an aggravation because you're in sort of a flow and then it pulls you out kind of thing. And it's like, um, it's kind of a knee jerky. Now with this energy that's coming in, this could add on to that aggravation with people and really bring in some real crazy energies, because this is very edgy. This is very where Neil was actually talking about this, about even the massive global shift from 2020, the pandemic, everything that happened, and then the rapid tech, right? The acceleration of everything. I mean, 5 years ago, AI was talked about, but it wasn't. I don't. It was being utilized. Like people were starting to look into it, but not as much as it is now. Like Chat GPT is used more than Google now with people. So the digital life, remote work is really being promoted more so than ever before. Along with that is also not only having remote work, but having to be able to connect with a community is even huger, like a part of it. So it's not like where, hide away, stay in your home. It's like, yeah, you got that, but you still have to get out, you still have to connect. So there's that. And then there's the economic instability and inflation. There's war and the geopolitical tensions that are going on right now. This is where you're hearing things and they're telling you things, and you're just like, well, what am I going to do about it? Like, I can't do anything that China bought a mine in Newfoundland and closed it down so they can have economic power over the United States and over the rest of the world, right? And Canada allowed that, which is just like, what the fuck? Like, does it frustrate me? And I think this Aries energy is gonna find that it is getting people to shift. It's activating this part within people where it's like, "Okay, something's gotta happen," right? And the social media amplifying everything doesn't really help. So this combination has created something very real. The nervous system, the shock to humanity, I think time speeding up. I really believe time is speeding up. It's not slowing down. Reality's feeling off. Anxiety baselines are higher than ever, and distrust with the system. Now, you don't have to be listening to the news. You don't have to be a part of the news to know that. You could just feel it. You could just go into a store and you feel it, right? You know that there's something off. You know that not everything is in proper alignment, right? And I feel like there's also a lot of timelines that are conflicting that are coming in too. So there's a lot of conflicting timelines. I felt the huge shift, and that was in 2012. Before 2012, actually 2010. So 2010, I started feeling a huge shift within the timelines coming in. I knew something was going on. I knew there was changes that were happening, and then 2012 happened, which was the end of the Mayan calendar. But it was also the end of the calendar for the New Zealand tribes, and that was at the end of January, not December, um, where it was for the other tribes. And I feel like there was this split happening. Things were starting to ramp up to where in 2017 I really was like, holy shit, the world's not going back. To 2019 was like, okay, no, there is no going back. The split has come, right? So this is where I feel like this energy that where we are today is really bringing things into a new energy field. When the world is feeling unstable, the brain tries to find the patterns, create the meanings, predict the danger, regain some kind of control. And so it's the politics, it's the secret meetings, the war, the economy, that is happening. And there's a lot of hiddenness, right? And finding that these are all connected. I find that there's a very our world is very complex. um I feel like there is an economic lockdowns coming down, and when I say lockdowns, doesn't mean that people are locked down, that they can't leave their home, but you're going to be really thinking about, can I afford to do this? Can I afford, like, it's really getting you to think, because the economic pressures, the cost of living, the inflation, right? The energy transitions. Even, today I think gas went up. I was like, it's like, oh, just $1.54 the other day, like 2 days ago. It's $1.76 today. I don't understand it. There's no rhyme or reason for the pricing of gas right now and how it's fluctuating up and down. So this is very messy and it's very imperfect. And that's why gathering, especially with if you're wanting to join me for the new moon gathering, it is where I'm gonna have my first introduction to my 6-week course. But it's also where coming in to ground things, coming in to allow yourself to land in a place where you feel safe and secure, which is very important. This is where, the moon, the Mars, Neptune, Saturn, um, all of these Chiron, all of these guys are in Aries. That's just it does push things up to urgency. It does heighten things up, right? And it amplifies. This is where the fight or the run, the reactions. Now, if you are a fire sign, this is going to trine everything in your sign, right? So you have that trining energy. And with that trining energy, you got to understand trines are nice, but it's like, okay, it's getting me to look at the world in a new way. It's getting you to feel things in a new way. And it is positive, but sometimes it's very difficult maybe to wanting to shift that way, wanting to feel that way. So amplifies the truth seeking, but also can jump, we got to be careful not to jump to conclusions too quickly, because, Aries wants direction. It wants that. And Mars is there. It's like, all these guys are in my house. You guys are working for me, right? Mars is the real, you working for me. Because this is his house. So you got to do what Mars wants to do. And so it brings in that activation, brings in that energy. And this is the real trajectory, is like, not to be fear-based, but to be honest. There is, a continual change, more tech shifts, more economic adjustments, more global tension, right? And this is where you got to find where people want to come back to simplicity, want to come back to something that's the gardening, the community, the skill building, the slower living. That's what people are wanting. They're going to be seeking that. But that's not because society's ending. It's a rebalancing of everything. And as we are rebalancing, we got to find out how we can adjust that within our own system and within our own nervous system, as things are moving. And especially, I mean, Uranus is just, this is like, he's bringing up all the crap what's in Taurus. So he's bringing everything to do with about values and morals, and everything to do with health system and money, and the money system. So my goal is to help people find a place to land. But I feel disillusioned when they don't respond. That's me. That's on me. That's my Jupiter in Aries. When I don't get that engagement, and I think it's not so much of being egotistical, but I think also being a projector. If you're not getting a response, then why am I going to continue doing what I do, right? If I don't continue to create the, the substance that I want to create, and you're not, and it's like you're throwing it out to the wind. And that's what it feels like, something like you're throwing it out to the wind and you don't get that response, right? So it can get very frustrating. And then with all this energy can amplify it, right? So I feel like this is not the world ending. The world's not ending, people. This is just where you're feeling the urgency. And for me, it's the urgency to help. And the fear people won't listen. If you're in fear mode, it's going to be very difficult to listen to. Frustration with slow response. And I see it, okay, I'm going to go back up here a bit. So I'm working on my logo, and I did my one logo with me on there. It was an AI generated and stuff like that, but it was too purple. Like, after looking at it, it's really cool. It's really nice, have, rings on necklaces and very hippy dippy kind of look. But to me, it's like, nah, I don't, that's not what I'm going for. Right? And then Sherry came in and helped me, and she sent some real beautiful ones, and I'm like, "Yeah, it has the cup of coffee." I put it through the AI, generator, and it says, "Well, take the heart off." And I know I want that heart on the cup, because I feel that's very important. That's, having it. I love hearts. I got married on Valentine's Day. Uh, having that heart energy is important. And just, with the books on the side and the water, me being, a water baby, this is having that connection, but the softness of the colors, right? And having that softness of colors, yet being where it's not so childlike or like frivolous looking, or too, and I don't want anything that's too witchy looking. It's just not what I want. It's fine for other people if that's their look, that's where they feel, but to me, it's always been where I want to meet people in all different genres. I want to meet people in a space that feels safe. So I'm not projecting that I'm all witchy, or I'm all religious, or I'm all this. This is where no, this is where I want people to come into a very safe place, right? A place where, yeah, we can sit, we can chat. So the one of my sort of new sort of catchphrases is "come sit with me." I love that. I love that. Because to me, that's very important. It's very important that people can come in, sit down, and have a conversation. And that's the whole thing, is like a lot of my intuitiveness and readings are a conversation to have with you. a conversation so that we can gather in order for us to create a safer place, a place of harmony, a place where we are able to expand within our own worlds, because we are in a place that is very unstable. We're in a place where people feel that they're owed. What are they owed? I don't know. You're seeing all these young people, like, why are, like, it's so socialist and fascist and communist, or whatever the ist is, that you owe me. And of course, that, with this energy, we'll just spark that even more, right? Because it'll get that little bit energy. It might grab, because there's a lot of people who are disillusioned right now. There's a lot of people that are distraught. There's a lot of people that are looking at the political system and saying, what the hell? I don't have a say. So fuck it. Why should they have it and I don't? That's where the frustration is, because they're seeing, it's like, well, I go to school, I do all of this, but I'm not getting the opportunities. I'm not getting, my spark isn't grasping anything. And when the spark isn't grasping anything, it gets frustrated. And then with Mars in there, it can just put salt on that wound and cause more of that irritation. And in causing that irritation, brings in all of the isms, and because people are feeling, they're feeling lost. They're feeling, I don't know where to go. I don't know what to do. And you can call them dumb, retarded, or whatever the word you want to call them. You can call them stupid, or you can say, get up off your ass and just pull up your socks and go and do it. But they're not given that skill set to do it. We have a whole society of young people that are not given the skill set to get up and do what you think they should be doing. Plus, you have a whole society that has been born under a pandemic, and they were born in isolation. So now you're telling them to get out there and have skills to relate to others, but they have never had that. They've had teachers who've been masked, so they can't pick up on those cues. And you might say, oh, well, it's nothing. But this is where this energy is coming in, and it's triggering all of these little tremors. And all of these little tremors are getting triggered. I love the slogan as well. And as these little triggers are getting activated, they're finding the grasping. That's why the NDP convention was so out there, so out to lunch. And people are making fun of it online, and so they should, because it was quite hilarious. It's like, a white person could not talk. Well, a white woman might be, because she's a little bit more oppressed, so she'd have her one little card. But if there was a First Nations in front of her, well, that person went in front of her to talk. She basically could not have a word. She could not say anything because a First Nation came in. Now, if another First Nation in, he better have a better card than that First Nation, because that next First Nation better be be disabled, and be oppressed in some way, be a lesbian or whatever. Then that's going to be able to jump the line over the other First Nation, because that one had something a little bit more to say, because they're a little bit more oppressed than anybody else. Now, if you gave your spot away to a white person, God forbid, you're fucked. Because how dare you do that? Those are the thing is that the whole energy field right now, and that's a whole, like, and what I see, it's a whole mask. It's like one of those cartoons where somebody takes, the black little marker, and does all the scribbly lines and everything else, and it's all scribbly. That's what that is. And that's how I see it. It's all scribbly, right? And being all scribbly there. Where others over here are trying to make sense of it all. Of course, the humor comes out in it, and they make fun of it, because it's just like, okay, what else can we do with this? Because there's no rhyme or reason. There's no logic to it. And when there's no logic into things, when there's no rhyme or reason to things, that's where people are starting to feel the loss. That's where people are starting to feel, where it's like, what the hell's going on? Right? why I'm doing, the whole new moon gathering, and the diamond and dragon, the dragon coming in, because the dragon is very much a symbol of the Aries energy, the fire coming in, and then the fire moon. It's like this activation that's happening, and it's how you land with this activation. Are you landing over here in Lululand, in this scribbly mess, where they're going to pull you in many different directions and get you going all over the place, and being like a dog chasing its tail? Or are you going to land over here, where you're going to say, okay, where can I bring in the simplicity? Where can I bring in the trust? Where can I bring in my mental well-being? That's where this energy is at. It's like, where can I bring my mental well-being? What does that look like? And that could be simply where in the UK you can buy allotments, or you can bid on allotments, and then it's kind of like an allotment is where a gardening spot, right? And if you get your name in time, they have sort of similar ones here in the city, where different areas have a gardening area, but you have to be a part of that community center in order to bid on them. And you have to get your bid in pretty early, because a lot of these people, like, they're there every this is mine, kind of thing. But there are people that are starting to look at and saying, you know what, I want 4 allotments. This is what I want. And that's what you're starting to see, is that people are starting to look at that and wanting to bring back some sort of simplicity, some sort of sanity within the craziness of the world. When I listened to something about a mine being sold to China this morning, when Steve went into Walmart, and I'm sitting in the car, I'm just like, what can I do about this? Like, does it aggravate me that this has been allowed? And my mind goes, why can't they overthrow it? Why can't they just say, no, they're not allowed to have this, right? This is, I don't understand. But it's like, all I can do to it, and all I can do with that energy, is bless it. And that's a hard one to step into the blessing, step into, because as things are unfolding, as things are getting chaotic, it's needed in order to get people to start to shift to the community, to shift to the simplicities. That's where this comes in, because people are wanting to have more of a connection with their neighbor than have a strife or a conflict with them, right? That's where spirit wants to come in. That's where the spark wants to hit. But when we get caught up in the crazy, in the Lululand, we can get thrown off. We can get aggravated. We're frustrated over it. But this is where, and I'm going, and I've said this for a long time. I've said to people, you got to stock up. You're going to find that, I'm going to say, by May or June, all of a sudden there's going to be one thing off the shelf, or maybe two things off the shelf that you like to buy but you can't get anymore. And I'm going to say, let's say it's a cereal, and let's go for a Fruit Loops. All right. Even though you probably don't talk about Fruit Loops, Mary, it's all full of sugar and dyes, whatever. Okay, your kid likes Fruit Loops, I don't give a shit. And all of a sudden you can't get the Fruit Loops anymore, because Fruit Loops can't come into the country or whatever. The stock is gone. Grocery stores, and I've worked for a grocery store for a very short time. Grocery stores only carry 2 to 3 days supply of food for that community. That's it. You can go in and you can look at the food and you're like, what do you mean 2 to 3 days? There's so much food here. Yeah, there's a lot of food, but you got to look at the community it supplies and the consumption. That's why when you're looking at things, it's like, that's only a 2 to 3 day supply of food. That's it. So if something crazy happens or whatever, you're going to find that it's going to be imperative to really start to look at, okay, do I have an allotment? Like, I live in a rental unit, So I know my landlord said I could do and plant whatever I want, but in some ways I can't because the guy upstairs has a dog, right? And the dog's in the backyard and it poops everywhere in the backyard, right? So, and I can say my dog does not poop in the backyard. She doesn't. She'll pee in the backyard, but my dog will not go to the bathroom in the backyard. She'll only go if we go on a walk. She'll go to the bathroom. And then on her little pad if something happens during the middle of the night. But that's it. Anyways, this is where it's like, okay, if you want an allotment, so this is where for me thinking, okay, if I can't do that, or if I lived in, an apartment, like, so I want to go to the farmer's market and maybe buy a big bag, a 50-pound bag of potatoes. And maybe I'm going to buy, when tomatoes start coming out, I'm going to go to buy 50 to 100 pounds of tomatoes. Now, I know that sounds like a lot, not all the time. And pick and then have that, and then I can freeze it or do whatever with it, right? So this is where you got to start thinking and having staples. During the war, like people like when with my parents and stuff, they didn't have meat every day, right? Having meat every day is something more that started after World War II. Having a pot roast on Wednesday and things like that, and shake and bake kind of thing on Fridays was a treat. So we got to start rethinking how we are consuming. And I think that's also what the energies are trying to do, it in a way of saying, what are you consuming? What are you intaking within your body, within the world around you? Right? So the world, the energy, spiritual energy, is coming in and asking these questions in order for us to awaken and saying, yeah, I want to have a better life. And it's okay if there isn't Fruit Loops on the shelf. It's okay if I can't have meat every day. But in our mind, if you are a meat eating person and having meat every day, that's been part of your consumption. So it's like having a vegetarian, and I used to do this a lot when my kids were younger, and where I would make chili without beef, right? Or spaghetti without hamburger. And when they were younger, they didn't really notice too much. It wasn't until they were teenagers, like, well, there's no meat in here. But that's where we're heading. That's the energy. You have a great homemade recipe. Cool. I just buy it. But this is where things are definitely changing, and the energies are changing. Me, I mean, I know some of you out there are great at cooking and making things and doing all that kind of things. That's not my forte. I can learn it. I could probably do it. Just not my forte. My forte is spirituality and talking to you about spirit and God. That's where my that's my lane. you know, and explaining how the energies are coming in at this time. And there are things, where our governments and meetings they go to, um, that we're not privy to. And so this is like, okay, you know what? I can't, I'm going to bless that, and I'm going to give it up to the Holy Spirit and ask for inner peace and a miracle, but I'm going to focus on what I can do and what is available for me to create within my life and within the lives of those that work with me, and create that. And I'm going to call it a container to have people to come sit with me. So on that note, if you are feeling like you want to come sit with me this Friday, definitely get a hold of me. It's $44. You're going to have the first episode, or the first connection of the Diamond and Dragon ones, which will be a 6-week course that we're going to be meeting every Friday, Thursday or Friday, and it's going to be $111. There's going to be an exchange with this. And I hummed and hawed about the price. I could have made it cheaper. And I thought, I was thinking of $444. And I thought, no, 111 kept coming because 1111 kept coming into me. So I said, no, that's what I'm going to stick with. And opening up to, and of course there's payment plans. You can pay me for 4 weeks and that's $25 a week. That's $100. And then the last week you pay me $11. Yeah, whatever. This is where bringing this connection in and getting people to come and sit, because that, whether the community's live or online, is a very important piece of movement of where we are going towards at this time and what we are wanting to spark, right? And sparking this. And I'm not going to have a workbook with this. I know some people are going to say, hallelujah, Mary, not another workbook. No, this is going to be coming in. It's going to be raw. It's going to be, here it is. We're going to do this. Bring your books, bring your pencils, bring your crayons, bring your pen. We're going to work on things. And I'm going to give you either journal prompts, meditations to work on for that week. That's what it's going to be. Right? I know I do a lot of workbooks. I love workbooks. I know I just got into doing workbooks. So I am working on my May workbook right now. I love it. It's so pretty. But this is where the energies are coming in right now. And I'm even looking at doing a generic workbook for full moon and new moon. So it's just generic. If people like the specific ones, if you really like the Aries one or the very specific moon books, awesome. It's I think just doing a generic one, and then if I could just do a bonus thing for that month and do it that way. And, that's where my thought, trying to make life a little bit more simpler for me as things go. So focusing on what I can do, focusing on what I can create, and my time limitation, and what brings in prosperity, right? And that's what we all have to think about too. What is bringing in that prosperity within our life? And prosperity can be, not only money, but you got to think of, the prosperity of health, the prosperity of relationships, bringing that forth for you all. And that's all of that is so important, because that way, the thing is that many of us, and that's a whole that's a whole thing I want to bring in too, and that's part of my June theory series, is that I want to bring in talking about wealth and talking about money. And the reason being is that having the understanding is like, not necessarily having the millions and billions of dollars, which would be absolutely fabulous. I mean, I wouldn't say no to it, but having the understanding that creating it is important. Creating that dynamic is important in a person's life, because it does give you freedom. It does give you stability. And in order to honor it, in order to embrace it, is an important part of this new world, and understanding the economics and understanding the diversity of what this world is coming in and bringing to us all. So on that point, join me this Friday. Come sit with me. May the Lord and Lady watch over and bless each and every one of you in all you say and all you be and all you do. Have any questions, comments, or concerns? Comment below. Definitely like and subscribe and share this out. Please share my YouTubes out. I think I'm at almost 300. I want to get to at least 500. Let's go for 1,000, by the end of the year. Would be absolutely fabulous. So blessings, everybody. Well, have a great day. Bye-bye.